Hey guys, before we start talking about the Chicago Bears versus New Orleans Saints game, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. My goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers by the middle of January, and I'm currently coming out with daily videos. So, if you're interested in more daily NFL content, hit that like and subscribe button, as it allows me to keep making great content for you guys, and I'd really appreciate it too. With that said, let's dive right into the video, and I hope you enjoy. So at the end of the day, pretty big win for the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, they'll move on to the divisional round next week, where they're going to be playing the Bucs. So that's going to be a rematch. Obviously, they played them twice this season. But let's talk about the Saints versus Bears game. So for the Saints, they got Kamara and they got Michael Thomas back, and the offense had some growing pains throughout the game. I mean, they looked really good when they started. Michael Thomas was right in there. He was good from the get-go. He caught a touchdown. That was his first touchdown in almost like a year and a half. At some point, or I think it was about a year, because obviously he's missed a lot of time this season. He didn't catch a touchdown pass in the regular season this season, so the last touchdown pass he had was last season, at the end of last season. But Kamara and Michael Thomas were big impact players for the New Orleans Saints today. I mean, they were able to move the football down the field. Kamara via the ground game. Towards the end of the game, they really relied on Kamara to push this ball forward and to keep that offense moving and keep them on the field. And then Michael Thomas, I mean, he didn't show up as much at the end of the game. I mean, he was good in that first half, but overall, it's big for the Saints to have these guys back. Obviously, Kamara was on the COVID list. Thomas was out for the past few weeks because he was on the IR. But overall, really good to see them back. And I mean, also, Deonte Harris had a nice game too, which is a name that some fans of the NFL might not really be accustomed to, but he's a Saints wide receiver. He had a nice game. He was able to really be good as a check down guy, but also he was just good in the intermediate passing game, getting a lot of passes and really having a career day for him. He finished the game with 7 catches for 83 yards, and that's something that the Saints were really missing the past few years. I mean, they haven't really had that true second receiver. I'm not saying Deonte Harris is a true second receiver, but in the important games, the Saints have not really been able to have those receivers show up. So it was nice to see Deonte Harris show up in a big game for the Saints today. And then defensively, I mean, it was a stingy defensive effort, stingy defensive performance from the New Orleans Saints. They did not give up a lot of points to a very bad Bears offense, but that was important. They need to continue that stingy defense. I mean, it all starts with the great pass rush and the physicality that they have. Guys like Malcolm Jenkins and Cameron Jordan and veteran guys who have been in these situations before, who are stingy and defensively gifted and they're physical and they get to the football and they attack. Then you got Marshawn Lattimore on the edge. I mean, this Saints defense has been good all year. Demario Davis, that's another name for you there. Those guys are big and those are really impact players for the Saints team, and they were great today. Very aggressive, attacking the football, getting their hands on footballs, just making Mitch Trubisky's life very difficult. And we'll get to Mitch Trubisky in a second. I mean, another thing I wanted to talk about is just focus on Will Lutz. I mean, his terrible year, I mean, not terrible year, but down year for him, so I guess it's pretty bad, continues. I mean, he missed a field goal today, but like overall, Will Lutz is one of the better kickers in the NFL. He's going to have to rebound if the Saints team is going to want to go on a deep playoff run. Obviously, I mean, that might not sound huge. I mean, kicking field goals, so what? But those are crucial points, and in the playoffs, crucial points matter, so it's going to be important for him to get his game back and really be able to knock down some field goals down the stretch. And I mean, going to next week, as I said, they need to keep up that physical defensive effort. They were really big and really annoying today for that Bears offense. And moving into next week, I mean, they're also going to have to be a little sharper on offense. Obviously, they got the ground game going as the game progressed. Drew Brees had a nice day, throwing for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns on a pretty high completion percentage too. But overall, like, this Saints offense, it needed to be sharper throughout the entire game. They were good in the second half, good at times in the first half, but I would like to see a more complete 60-minute effort from them next week. And then for the Chicago Bears, you know what? These games happen, right? To be honest, this team probably shouldn't even been in the playoffs. The Arizona Cardinals look like they should have made it, and then the whole Week 17, Week 16 thing where the Bears ended up making it, the Cardinals didn't win against the Rams, so they didn't make it. So, I mean, Trubisky looked good throwing the ball at times. I mean, he was just under a lot of pressure. That Bears offensive line just was not good today. They haven't been really good all season, and they could not give any support for the run game. They could not get any push whatsoever. David Montgomery just did not look good running the football. He really could not go anywhere. He was well under 3 yards per carry on the day. And I mean, Allen Robinson, that was a guy that I was looking at to really carry this offense. I mean, he didn't finish with a lot of catches or a lot of yards. I mean, he was quiet throughout the day. And ever since Anthony Miller got ejected, and they were without Darnell Mooney from the beginning, so it was hard for Trubisky to really throw the ball. But when he threw the ball, I mean, it looked okay. It just he didn't really have the weapons, didn't really have the options, and it goes back to this Bears offense. And to be honest, I'm going to call into question Matt Nagy and his offense and his scheme and his play calling. I think he needs to do a better job moving forward if he wants to keep his job. I don't think the Bears will fire him this offseason, but I think they would have reason to fire him. He hasn't really given them a lot. Obviously, they made the playoffs twice in his 3 years, but he hasn't won a playoff game. So it's something to just keep in mind, keep in the back burner, maybe going on into next season. But I did like this Bears defense. I really like this Bears defense, even though they did not have Jalen Johnson and Roquan Smith. And although they gave up a lot of points, if you look at the final box score, it really wasn't like that. Through 3/4 of the game, basically, they kept this game close, and that was because of timely turnovers and pressure and really stingy and elite defenses. And that comes down to guys like Khalil Mack and Akiem Hicks on that defensive line. Also, Robert Quinn had a nice little game too. He was another guy in that mix that was able to just be a force. But I really liked the performance by Tashuan Gibson in the secondary, the safety. He was hard-hitting, getting to footballs, and he was really good. He ended up having a sack on the day. I just liked his performance, but at the end of the day, this defense was not enough to carry this terrible offense. And Javon Wims had a drop touchdown at the beginning of the game that, maybe if he had scored, he had caught that ball, the Bears would have been able to stay in the game a little bit longer and maybe make a run for it down the stretch. But ever since he dropped that ball, and that was a great throw by Mitch Trubisky. For those that say Mitch Trubisky can't throw the ball deep downfield, doesn't have the arm talent, he does. That show proved it. That throw proved it. But overall, I think Javon Wims, that was a tough blow right there. Mitch Trubisky looked good early throwing the football, and they just could not keep that momentum going. So going into next season, it's all about revamping the offense from head to toe. New quarterback, new wide receivers. Allen Robinson's a free agent. We don't know if he's going to re-sign. Offensive line help. The running back position is probably okay. David Montgomery looked good towards the end of the season. He was in the top 5 of the NFL rushers this season. But overall, this was a team that really just at the end of the day needed offensive help this season. Their defense was good most of the time this season. Yes, they had some ups and downs, but overall, this defense is always going to be the heart and the soul of this team. Very good defense on this Chicago Bears roster, but it's really about the offense, and they got to upgrade the offense this offseason. Trubisky is going to be a question mark. Are they going to go out and sign another quarterback, maybe draft a quarterback in the NFL draft? But overall, the offense is going to need to be something that's going to really need to be looked at. But for the Saints, they move on to next week. They're going to play the Bucs in the divisional round. That's going to be a big game. Brady versus Brees. So that'll be exciting for the NFL too. And that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? What were your takeaways from today's game? And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and a sub. I'd really appreciate that. It would help my channel grow. And until next time, see ya.